everyone, I'm Becky.
I'm Sarah.
And we're doing Bickering Book Reviews. Today we're talking about All the Little Lights by Jamie McGuire. I got it through NetGalley.
Same.
EARC through NetGalley. And this book is about Elliot and Catherine, and they have a special connection from the moment they met the summer after freshman year. But the two are pulled apart by their parents. Now it's 2 years later, Elliot is back and will do whatever it takes to get his first love back, but is Catherine willing to open his heart to him again? Which is a very broad strokes what this book is. So
I was first struck by the fact that it was, I've read Her Beautiful Disaster. I've read the first 2 books in that series. And I think in that series she did really well distinguishing kind of the different tones of voices. Mm-hmm. But here I had kind of some issues with knowing who was who. I was very confused as of who I was reading.
The narrative, there's 2 different narrative voices and they sound exactly the same.
And I also had in the beginning, it was really hard for me to distinguish not only who was who, but also how old they were. When you first read this book, it sounds like they're 8.
Well, and when it jumps ahead the 2 years and they're older, it still sounds exactly the same. And I don't think it marks where it jumps ahead. So I'm like, what is going on?
No, that is true.
And I was super disappointed by this because I've actually read a lot of her Maddox Brothers books, and I like her books. And I mean, yes, they're soft-pubbed, and so there's a grain of salt with things. But you always get this, great romance. She's so good at writing romances, and to me, the romance was, almost non-existent in this book.
I can agree with that. It made me uncomfortable, I think. The romance, I think, made me uncomfortable because he was so intense, and she had so much, other stuff going on that, she wasn't even thinking about any of that.
Well, and, the description in the book says that, that there's a tragedy in their town, and he's blamed for it, and they get ripped apart. But that doesn't happen, and I know this because I was reading it on my Kindle, and it tells you this, 45% of the way through the book. So it felt so slow. I was get to the point.
Well, and she definitely brings in kind of the racial aspect of Elliot being Native American.
Well, that was one of the only things I liked.
So, and I wonder, I didn't see a problem with it, but I wonder, how, a person like Debbie Reese would...
If you were actually First Nation.
Right. I wonder, I didn't see a problem with it, and, it's definitely talking about issues that you don't see in a lot of other books.
Right.
But I wonder...
Well, no, and I appreciated that first of all, that he was First Nation, and also that, it did really show the prejudice towards them, and you don't necessarily always get that in books. I had a big problem with the twist, which, first of all, I thought was obvious, and I found it slightly offensive.
So, and it's going to be really hard to talk about this because I don't want to give anything away, but... I thought it was offensive as well, and there are pieces of mental illness throughout the book.
Right.
Not saying that it's part of anything, but there are pieces of mental illness in the book.
And I just didn't know.
And just the way that it was dealt with was very offensive. Especially, after reading Life Inside My Mind.
Right.
Then you, read something like this, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
So, and even though I'm not a member... I don't know, even though many of these issues don't impact me personally, you can definitely tell that it was not done in a sensitive way.
It wasn't. The only other thing, so like I said, I liked the fact that she chose to include a character that was First Nation. I also felt that there was a little bit of positiveness about the idea of foster families and getting help, which you don't necessarily see. It's so brief, but those were the only 2 parts of the book that I was...
No, I can agree that
positive.
Maybe sometimes your birth parents are not the best place for you.
Should we just rate it?
Yeah, let's do it.
So our rating system starts at the top with 5 unicorns. We go down to 2 unicorns. If we don't like it, it's a horse. Where are you?
I'm at 2 unicorns. It took me forever to get through this book, and it was really hard to keep everything straight.
Yeah, I gave it 2 too, just for no other reason than, like I said, I appreciated the First Nation thing, and I appreciated the foster care. But, honestly, my instinct, was more of a 1.5, but we don't do halves.
And I'm really interested to see what the online book community has to say about the way mental illness is addressed.
And I'm sure people who are huge fans of hers are going to love it. But like I said, I was a moderate fan, and I was just Okay, and so that is where we are on All the Little Lights.
All right, see ya.
Bye.